Okay, everybody, we're back again. This time, we're going to be talking about histograms today in section 9.3 of our book. Before I do that, I want to make sure we're all set up. So you have your digital notebook in a tab, you have us and the meet in a tab, your Google Classroom so you can get to this video in a tab. Once you have all of that set, get started on that homework. And if you're not in class, make sure that thing's done, but let's get into this video. Histograms. So something that might look similar to something you've seen before because they are similar to bar graphs, but they're a little different. Here's our one and only learning objective for the day. We are describing data graphically using these histograms. So make sure you have this snapshot and in our notes. Only one vocab word for the day too, so that's really nice. We're talking histogram, so let's define it. Histogram is a bar graph that shows the frequency of data divided into equal intervals. So here's a picture of it. This apparently is a histogram of 31 NFL team salaries, going from 39.4 to 43.3, all the way up to 58.3. I'm not exactly sure what they're counting by. Maybe that's millions, billions, I'm not sure. But then you could see frequency here on the side. That's how often, how many of those teams fall into each category. We're going to get into reading these in example number 1, and then we're going to get into creating our own of these in example number 2. It's important that we have this histogram vocab word in our notes, so make sure you take a digital screenshot of this, and then we can keep moving forward. So let's get into example number 1. Example 1, not looking at those NFL teams anymore, but now focusing on scores on a math test. Here's our histogram. We want to read through it. We want to figure out what this thing is even telling us by answering these few questions here on the left. So, score on a math test. We have test scores here on the bottom, frequency here on the left, going up the side. And it looks like we have range values there, which I'm going to call intervals. So I have 60 to 69 scores, 70 to 79, 80 to 89, 90 to 99. So basically I have A's, B's, C's, and D's. Following this might be a little tricky to tell exactly what it's saying, but let's get into it. First question says, look at the histogram. Which axis indicates the frequency? Frequency means how many times it shows up. So frequency word is here on the left. That's our vertical axis. So for part A, we could say vertical. Part B, what does the horizontal axis indicate? Well, if vertical was frequency, the horizontal must be this one down here, which is our test scores. Part B was pretty easy after we figured out part A. Now, part C is crucial. How is the horizontal axis organized? It's crucial because this is kind of the big thing with histograms. Histograms are not only bar graphs, they're bar graphs in certain intervals. And you have to be very careful about what those intervals are. Now, for this class, with all of these different scores on a test, clearly they ranged from D's to A's. Because of that, the teacher set it up counting by tens, or counting by grade level, A's, B's, C's, and D's. On the bottom there, that tells you what our groups are organized by, which are by groups of 10. So there's our answer for part C. Now we've read the data around it. We know what the frequency is. We know what the histogram's talking about. And we know what the intervals are. Let's answer the questions about how many are in each interval. And I want to show you what I mean by that. So for part D, it says how many scores are in the interval 60 to 69. Well, you're looking at this bar here that follows 60 and 69. And notice that bar tops off halfway between 4 and 2. What number is halfway between 4 and 2? 3. We could do the same thing with the rest of these. So 70 to 79, that's our second bar. I'm looking all the way up. I'm halfway between 8 and 10. Halfway between 8 and 10, 9. Part F, how many scores in the intervals for 80 to 89? I'm looking all the way. Oh, not halfway this time. This time it's on the line. It's on 12. How many scores in the interval 90 to 99? Okay, I'm looking. There's the top. Looks like I'm halfway between 8 and 6, so I must be 7. So this means there was 7 in the class that got an A, 12 that got a B, 9 that got a C, and those poor 3, they got a D on the test. There's histograms for you. That's how you read them. That's how you get the information from them. So hopefully now, if you see any histograms, you can read them. Let's get into creating one. So our last example for the day, we are creating a histogram. This time we're looking at another set of data. We're talking about the heights of basketball players. So here's a random list of heights of basketball players. I don't know who is with which, but these are by inches. So these are going to be pretty big. 79 inches, 75 inches, 74 inches, on and on and on to the last one here, which is 70 inches. It might help us if we put it in order, but for the sake of the video and the sake of time, I'm just going to keep it like this. Now, when we're setting up histograms, it helps to make a frequency table so we could keep track of what numbers go where. Remember, histograms are going to have intervals on the bottom. With this big list of numbers, I want to set it up where I have about 5 different groupings, 5 different intervals. So let's look at the biggest and smallest and see how we can divide this into 5 different groups, 4 or 5 different groups. 79 is pretty big. 63 is pretty small. I don't see anything bigger than 79. I don't see anything smaller than 63. So we're going to use those two. 79 minus 63. Let's find the range. 79, 63. That gets us 16. 5 doesn't really go into 16, but 4 does. So let's divide it. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So let's count 4s as our intervals. Starting with our smallest number, 63. So I'm going 63, 64, 65, 66. There's my first interval. And I could continue counting by 4s to get the rest of them to set up my frequency table. So I have 63 to 66, 4 numbers. Then I have 67, 68, 69, 70, the next 4 numbers. The next 4, the next 4, the next 4. And then my last one was 79, 79, 80, 81, 82. So I have my interval set up. Now let's fill this blank with how many times these numbers show up. So we're talking any numbers from 63 to 66. So I'm looking through my list. There's a 63. There's a 65. And that's it. So I got 2. Looking at the next one, I'm 67 to 70. So looking through 67 to 70. There's a 68. There's a 69. There's another 68. Oh, and there's a 70. So we have 4 of them this time. 71 to 74. Okay, there's a 74. Another 74. A 73. A 71. A 74 again. That makes 5. With that last 73 makes 6 in between those numbers. Now I'm 75 to 78. Okay, there's a 75. A 76. That's it. Is that right? Did it 2? Yep, 2. And our last one's 79. Well, we had 79 from the beginning. Any other 79s? Anything bigger than that? No. So just 1 in that interval. Now, with pencil and paper or in a problem you're working out, it's going to be a lot easier to cross out the numbers as you're counting through your frequency table to make the histogram. It's going to make it a lot faster. That way you don't have to look through the list every time. You're just looking at the numbers you didn't cross out. But now that we have our intervals and our frequency, let's set it up with our histogram. Remember, height or not height, but the intervals go on the bottom. Frequency is going to go along the side. So our intervals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll put them here next to our 5 different bars, going from smallest interval to largest. Next, we're looking at frequency. So we need to count from 0 to 6, our biggest one. I'm going to go a little more than that just because of how the graph is kind of stretched out. But if you're writing it down, you can just go to 6. That's our highest one. Now with this, let's start drawing those bars that we saw in example 1. For the first interval, it's a frequency of 2. So this first interval should have a bar going all the way up to 2. Next interval was a 4. So this interval should go all the way up to 4. After that, we had 6. This was our tallest one. So 71 to 74, all the way up to 6. Then 2. So we're back down low again. And a 1. Small range there. There's our histogram. We've created it. Now, I want to take it a little bit further. Just looking at this histogram, guys, what kind of shape would you say it is? We're in the middle with the most of them. Looks a little heavier on one side because of the 67 to 70. Because of that, I might say skewed to the right because that's my smaller side. But since we're pretty smack in the middle, this is pretty symmetrical. If it was a question on a quiz or a test, I would say symmetrical for this problem. We had a list of heights for basketball players. We made a table out of them. We took that table and we drew a histogram out of that. There's example 2. And with that, we are done for today. So guys, remember, if you need to, go back through, get the learning objective in our notes, get that vocab in our notes, get the first and the second example in our notes. After that, feel free to review this video, but get into that homework because we have some practice problems with histograms. Thanks so much. We'll see you guys later.